You see it walking?
Dude, it's on two legs.
Watch it. Get the flashlight on it.
Hey! Hey!
Most Bigfoot footage gets debunked instantly because of these reasons. Bad lighting, someone in a suit, a bear walking, highly pixelated. These 14 sightings aren't. These footage are captured by different people, at different locations, at different times. No connection with each other, just capturing something that no scientist, skeptics, or professional analysts can explain. And they simply cannot explain them away. What you're about to see has never been explained, even up to this day. Deep in the woods in Peyton, Utah. A hiker was going about his activity. Then he spotted some strange sounds coming from the woods. Completely terrified, he took out his phone and began recording. But he was shocked at what he found in the woods. As the camera was filming the woods, it spotted a strange creature, too tall for a normal animal, at least not yet identified, walking in the woods, massive enough that the thick bushes can't even fully camouflage it. It walked unbothered, like it has no predator. The hiker was terrified and couldn't even move properly so he wouldn't be spotted by the gigantic creature and potentially lose his life. He recorded just enough as he could. Until date, the mystery behind the creature hasn't been solved. A group of people are having a nice time on their property, very close to a forest in central Oregon. It's just a field distance from where they're standing to the forest. That's when they spotted something strange that walked out of the forest. The individuals filming the scene are visibly distressed and uncertain about what they're witnessing on their property. The group said they have seen the strange figure multiple times, but they weren't lucky enough to record it. Until now.
I'm not kidding. That thing's, we've seen it multiple times. It's coming over here. It's coming. It's coming over here.
Go inside.
Oh my god. Oh, it went down again. Oh my god, what is that?
It spawns out from the bushes. The girls are frightened upon seeing it and shout. At first it seems like a monkey or gorilla because it's walking on both its hands and legs. Normal shock. Then suddenly it started walking on just its feet. Not the normal way a gorilla walked. A very unusual style of walking, something far from ordinary. With the noises the people made, its attention is drawn towards them.
Right there. You see it walking?
Dude, it's on two legs.
Watch it. Get the flashlight on it.
Hey! Hey! Oh, that. Someone's messing with us now.
No, it's a person. They're messing with us.
Dude, this isn't a game.
No one's messing
Flashlight on. Eric, turn the flashlight on.
If anything, Eric's playing a sick joke.
It looked at them for some time before walking without fear towards a tree and disappearing for a few seconds. It appeared again, this time retreating towards the bushes. Then the individuals who have been recording it since made some loud callings to draw its attention. It spotted them this time and began charging towards them. This footage was recorded in Russia, deep in the forest, talk trees, irregular pathways. A boy and his father in the forest trying to gather some woods to keep their house warm and possibly sell some of them. They spotted something eerie deep in the woods. At first it was regular sounds. Then the sound amplified, so they took out their camera to record what was responsible for such loud sounds deep in the woods. That's when they saw the huge creature.
Он, короче, опять на нас потер, наверное. Засни, если что, на YouTube выложим. Смотри, блин, смотрите сюда.
The strange creature was spotted running after a deer. It sprang out into the camera view, dashing towards the deer, feeling completely unbothered if it was being recorded or not. With just one goal in mind, the mysterious creature chased the deer.
О, жал! Я заснял его! Сукатил, пошли. Я заснял. Ё-моё.
Running out of the camera line of vision. Its arms are completely out of this world, unlike anything, and its unusual stamina is unnatural. This footage was recorded by a YouTuber who was testing the depths of his new camera by filming a patch of leaves in a wildlife reserve in Massachusetts. That's when he heard a loud noise hundreds of feet behind him, and he decided to record it before discovering the disturbing scene. After looking carefully, he spotted a strange-looking creature in the woods. Not the regular size, as its description does not fit anything natural in this world. The YouTuber was terrified after some time as it didn't make any more noise and just simply disappeared into the woods. He rushed out of the environment so the mysterious beast would not harm him. This footage was captured in rural Japan, just behind a residential building in what should have been an ordinary backyard. Nothing unusual. Nothing that would make you look twice. Then something moves. A dark figure emerges near the edge of the property, low to the ground at first, then upright. Broad shoulders, heavy build, moving with a slow, deliberate weight that immediately feels wrong for the environment. It looks like a gorilla. And that is exactly the problem, because gorillas do not live in Japan. Not in the wild, not in rural areas, and certainly not within meters of a neighborhood where people go about their daily lives. The creature is spotted on the grass beside a creek at the back of the property. It moves without urgency, without fear, like something that has no reason to hide. It circles the creek and the surrounding grass, pausing, scanning, before turning toward the water's edge. The movement is unhurried, almost routine, as if this is not the first time it has been here. It leans toward the water, drinks. Then it turns and walks back into the bushes. No panic, no scramble. It simply disappears the same way it arrived, quietly and on its own terms. No official explanation was given. No animal escaped from a nearby facility. No follow-up sighting was reported. Whatever it was, it knew exactly where it was going. This footage was captured by a group of people who went hiking in Canada. It's already winter when they set out to go hiking, only for their adventure to be cut short by a strange creature captured by the observers. The individuals recording the video express visible confusion about what creature they have stumbled upon. The creature was seen walking, then paused to look back at the observers before crouching down.
That's not human. That's not a human. The face is here at first, but no, it's not. That is not a human.
The observers remain in disbelief throughout the entire moment. The moment the figure was spotted, the observer was exclaiming, "That's not a human." And if you look deeply, you will see for yourself that it's far from being a human. They stopped recording and headed back to safety so they wouldn't get ambushed midway through their adventure. At the edge of a woodland, a little girl was perched on top of a rock, playing in the open air the way children do, completely unbothered, completely unaware. Her mother called out to her, urging her to come closer, to move away from the tree line. The girl refused. She wasn't ready to leave. Then she went still. Something deep inside the forest had caught her attention. Not a sound she recognized, not an animal she could name. A heavy movement through the trees, branches shifting, weight pressing against the undergrowth, the kind of sound that doesn't belong to anything small. Then it stepped into the open, a large, beastly figure, moving slowly along the edge of the forest, unhurried, as if the open field was simply part of its path.
Hasn't stopped its pace. It's just like
He's definitely hairy.
he looks hairy.
Like, is that? I'm starting to get a little weirded out. Not walking normal at all.
The woman filming never zoomed in, but even at that distance, the figure is visible, dark, upright, moving with a deliberate stride just beyond the tree line. What is striking is the scale of it. The field between the children and the creature is vast, and yet the figure still registers, still holds presence. Something that size, at that distance, should not be so easy to see. The children, meanwhile, kept playing, completely unbothered. As if whatever was moving at the edge of the forest was simply part of the afternoon, the mother kept filming. She didn't call out again. This sighting was captured in Colorado. Passengers in a train were shocked after they boarded the train, expecting a nice ride to their destination, just to discover something out of this world on their trip. Originally, they were scanning the landscape for elk before a passenger spotted a mysterious, large, hairy figure in the brush. He rushed to grab his phone so he could record the strange creature before the train moved further away. After recording the video, what he found was very disturbing, as nobody has ever seen it before.
It's an elusive creature.
The train was moving through the countryside in its signature rhythm. Inside the train, passengers trying to record an elk, that's when the strange creature was spotted. A strange creature with arms extra long doesn't fit any description for any animal in that environment or any species that can live there. But what the description did fit is that of a Bigfoot. The creature was spoiled, walking across the open grass like it's searching for something.
It's an elusive creature. Alright, just squat it down. Yeah, let me see your camera, I'll do it.
Slow, and suddenly it sat down on the open ground. Some of the witnesses said it answered nature's call on the spot. Others said it's resting, while the rest said it's waiting patiently for something to come out of a hole. Any of the above is up to debate, but what it is doing out in the open is still left unanswered. This sighting was recorded in America Fork Canyon, very close to the Tibble Fork Reservoir. The individual first noticed movement in the distance and thought to himself that it was a moose, or an elk, or potentially a bear. After trekking through snow and forest, the individual got very close to the sound he once heard and began recording. The creature eventually stepped out into a clearing in the open. They described being absolutely terrified by what they saw, characterizing the entity as the most massive animal they have ever come across in their entire lifetime of hiking. At first, the figure was stationary, unlike anything in this natural world. The hiker was astonished at the sighting before he could process what to do. At that critical moment, the figure moved slightly and he dashed out of the room, scampering for safety. When the footage got to the public, they couldn't place their hands on what the figure was, but the only thing that was agreed was, that's the first time they're seeing something this massive in the wild. This footage was captured on the 15th of August 2015. A sheriff was cruising down the road very dark in the night. The only source of light was his car headlights. And that's when he started hearing some loud, strange sounds from the grassland at the side of the road. He'd driven this road on all his shifts, and this is his first time he is witnessing something this strange. An unidentified figure is seen crossing the road just before the car drives past it.
Still got the land, and anybody coming on my property looking for no good, I'm gonna shoot them.
Absolutely. Whoa, what the heck?
What the?
What was that?
Did you see that?
Yeah.
After reviewing the footage, what they found left them in shock. Its car engine was running like it should. Headlights focused on the road. That's when something terrifying launched across the road. It has crossed to the other side and off into the bushes before the blink of an eye. After zooming, they found its form, and it's as terrifying as its movement. They sped out of the scene immediately and reported their findings to their supervisors. This footage begins innocent. Late afternoon sunlight spills across a backyard in a house in South Dakota. The little boy was jumping on his trampoline, completely happy and filled with joy. He got so amused and started flipping. They noticed a movement behind him. That's when a figure emerged out of nowhere. At first, his parents were terrified, still doubting what they're seeing, but that doesn't erase the strange figure from the camera line of vision.
What is that?
What?
What is that?
What's what?
Behind there? Is that something running? Is that, what is that?
What is that? Okay, well.
After they spotted the strange figure, the boy paused his jumping and hurried down from the trampoline to observe. Just a few meters away, a disturbing footage was filmed. An hairy figure with elongated hands is spotted running through the grassland. The family was left in total shock and still recorded the figure till it disappeared. Christmas Valley, Oregon, a location that has accumulated more unexplained sightings than almost anywhere else in the region, and yet only a handful have ever been captured on camera. Most people who encounter something here don't stop to record it, they leave. This man stopped to record it. He had been moving through the woods when the sound started. Not wind, not wildlife, something else, low, echoing, coming from deeper inside the forest in a way that didn't settle right. He kept the camera rolling and moved toward it anyway, nervous by his own admission, but still moving forward. That was his first mistake. He walked directly toward it, and then he saw it, standing there, close enough to matter. He stopped. The creature stopped. Neither moved. A few seconds that probably felt like minutes. Two things in the same forest deciding what came next. Then both of them retreated. Different directions. Paths that were never meant to cross, quietly uncrossing. He thought it was over. It wasn't. He hadn't gone far before a second figure appeared. Different location. Same forest, same feeling. He didn't wait this time. No pause, no camera adjustment, no hesitation. He ran straight to his car and drove out of Christmas Valley without looking back. 2 encounters, 1 visit. 1 question that has no clean answer. What was already out there before he arrived? For DMAX UK, the BFRO team pushed into the wilderness knowing something was already watching them. To cover whatever was out there, they made a team call, split into 2 teams and covered both the ridge and the forest. With a prime calling spot marked on the map, they moved out, ready to see what answered back.
Why don't we split up into 2 teams? Yeah. Perhaps you guys go to the top of the ridge, and we'll Matt and I will go to the forest, and we'll find 2 spots where we might be able to hear each other.
I saw on the map a great place to do some calls, so I want to go up there and hit it.
All right, let's see what we can do.
They halted the moment the ground opened up before them, tracks layered over tracks, as if the forest had been busy only moments ago. Fresh footprints / prints cut through the soil, a silent warning that something far more dangerous was following close behind. Whatever hunted here was still near, and the team had just walked straight into its feeding ground.
There was tons of deer track. There was a lot of elk tracks. So predators congregate there too. Mountain lions, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, they all feed there.
They sent their howls across the forest, the sound folding through the ridgelines like a coded message meant for something hiding just out of sight. And every time the calls came from different points in the dark, the woods reacted faster, as if whatever was listening realized too late that the hunters were closing in around it.
Why don't you shoot one back at us?
Roger that, we're ready.
As they swept the thermal imager across the forest, a massive, unexpected heat signature suddenly appeared, its size and intensity unlike anything they'd seen before. For a moment, the forest seemed to freeze around them, every shadow and rustle charged with an unseen presence, as if whatever was out there knew it had just been spotted.
Bubba, I got something here. Come here. Bubba, come here. Look. Oh. As I was scanning, I actually came across a large blip, a signature on the thermal imager.
Has it not moved?
It hasn't moved, but it's definitely a heat signature.
It's right down in there.
The night started manageably, but the storm wasn't done with them. Rain pounded, snow whipped through the trees, and the forest felt alive, watching, waiting, daring them to push further. Every step became a risk, and soon it was clear. Tonight, the weather might be the real threat.
It was starting to become a safety factor.
We gave it a shot. Sometimes the weather beats us out, and tonight was one of those nights.
Okay.
All right.
I guess so.
Cliff Barrickman introduced the team to the town hall. They had come to this hotspot knowing the forest was alive with unseen activity. As he asked who had ever encountered a Sasquatch, hands rose slowly, the tension in the air thick with anticipation. A girl stood up, reliving the memory aloud. A piercing, otherworldly sound had shattered the stillness, making her heart race. Then, a huge, dark-shaped figure had streaked past, moving too fast to follow, disappearing into the shadows. And for a long moment, the forest itself seemed to hold its breath.
We heard a noise, kind of sounded a little bit screechy. Me and my sister saw something really big and black just run by and then just kind of disappeared.
Another witness recounting her story. She had been driving when she spotted something ahead and cautiously brought the car to a stop. Thinking she was far enough to be safe, she watched, frozen, as the figure suddenly charged toward her, a massive shadow tearing through the trees, moving faster than anything she had imagined, leaving them both holding their breath. Under the cover of night, they set a cage, a tiny trap for something massive lurking in the shadows. Then, without warning, a huge, dark shape tore through the camp, moving faster than the eye could follow. The camera was rolling, for whatever had been drawn to it finally revealed itself. About 10 days earlier, 3 friends had gone fishing, the night calm and still, until a haunting, inhuman scream tore through the darkness. From the shadows, a pair of glowing eyes locked onto them, and slowly, a towering figure emerged, easily 8 or 9 feet tall. The next morning, they returned to the spot, only to find enormous footprints pressed into the soft earth, tracing the path the creature had taken, a silent reminder of what had been there.
My 2 friends sitting right here, we're going fishing, and all of a sudden we hear a scream just like on the vocalizations on that tape that we heard. You could see a set of glowing eyes. And then slowly stood up till about between 8 and 9 feet tall. The next morning we went back there, and exactly where we first spotted this thing and in the exact same steps that where this creature had walked, we happened to find this huge footprint. We casted it.
All right.
The question of what haunted the forest remains unanswered. Were those glowing eyes and towering figures merely tricks of shadow and light, or was something far more elusive and dangerous stalking the team? The night may have ended, but the memory of what they encountered will linger long in their minds. On Travel Channel, every journey tells a story, and this one is deeply personal. Michael Freeman ventures into the wilderness, following the footsteps of his father, Paul Freeman, whose life changed forever in 1982. That first encounter with a legendary creature sparked a 15-year obsession. Now, Michael retraces the same rugged terrain, asking the question that started it all. What truly happened here? And is it still out there? Paul Freeman spent long stretches in these woods, convinced the land itself whispered secrets.
My name is Michael Freeman. Paul Freeman is my dad in 1982. That's when he had his first encounter with Bigfoot. And that kind of set off a 15-year obsession, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, go around this bush here. See what's going on here.
Each trip revealed new clues, fresh imprints, unusual traces, signs of deliberate movement. He filmed every discovery, building a growing archive of unanswered questions. Yet the source remained elusive. Clear signs appeared, then silence. Whatever lurked seemed to watch from just beyond view.
Now, Deduck Spring, where this video was taken, was one of the viable water sources that was still being used by animals.
Sometimes they come here and get water.
My dad, knowing this, had been going up to that area for a couple weeks, actually, and he was finding footprint tracks up there, hair samples. He had been taking his camera. He was filming the collection of evidence.
Wow, looks like he's pretty fresh.
He would find stuff, but he would never have any sightings. And he would go back, the next day or the day after, and the same thing would happen over and over.
Yeah, he's went back up the road, come down the road.
Paranormal researcher Rosemary Ellen Guiley notes that Paul Freeman's legacy comes from evidence that could be examined, not debated. The footprint casts he recovered showed fine ridge patterns.
The valuable thing that Paul Freeman contributed to the field really came from his casts of footprints, and they have been examined by experts. He was able to capture what are called dermal ridges in his casts. This is an indication of striations in the skin.
Can't see much up through here. I hear the brush popping and stuff. Oh, there he goes.
Consistent with skin texture, setting them apart from ordinary tracks. Following the trail deeper, Freeman documented every step, the footprints leading him from certainty toward the unknown. He had seen strange things before, but nothing like this night. As darkness fell, Paul Freeman pushed deeper, following sounds that felt deliberate. These woods held a long history of mystery, and now they seemed anything but empty. Whatever moved beyond the brush did so with purpose, turning a routine investigation into a moment that would haunt him long after he returned.
He was pale in color. You could tell that something had upset him and something had bothered him.
Oh, God.
It's the only time in my life, including the day that he died, that I ever saw my dad scared of anything. And that right there, to me, I mean, I don't have to see one. That's the only proof I'll ever need for the existence of this animal, just knowing my dad and how that affected him.
The figure moved with fluid, instinctive grace. Nothing stiff, nothing forced. Its size and proportions were disturbingly consistent, impossible to fake. Later, those closest to Paul spoke not of what he saw, but how it changed him. A man known for strength and fearlessness, someone untouchable to his son, was left visibly shaken. For the family, that reaction mattered more than any photo or footage.
People can be skeptical, but you cannot deny the impact that these sightings have had on the people who saw the activity.
I mean, what can you say? Your dad comes home and he's got something like this on video, and you watch it and you rewatch it and then you watch it again and you say, well, that's not a bear. It's not a man. It's nothing I've ever seen. And yeah, I mean, it was exciting. It was an exciting time.
Oh, there he goes.
Whatever Paul encountered broke the image of invincibility, and that was proof enough. In the shadows, something moves. Tall, upright, impossibly still. Its coat is thick and wild, unlike any known animal. The camera rises slowly, revealing a presence that seems aware of its observer. A head shifts with quiet intention. Every subtle movement hints at intelligence, patience, and a power beyond comprehension. Alive, watching, refusing to reveal itself fully.
This is probably the most dynamic Bigfoot footage that I've ever seen.
The movements of this creature look very natural.
Doesn't look like a man in a suit. The height looks right, the weight looks right. I feel like this would be difficult for a man to hoax all on his own and the word not get out.
Oh, God. Hear my heart beating 40 miles an hour.
I believe that he saw Bigfoot. I know my dad. I grew up with my dad. I know what kind of person he is.
The figure had the unmistakable hallmarks of Bigfoot. Towering, primate-like, with a broad, dome-shaped head and massive frame. Beneath the dense fur, a lighter area hinted at a bare chest or hands held before it, adding an uncanny awareness to the encounter. The evidence was undeniable. Not a hoax, not a story from the past. Something still moves through these mountains.
She frightened my dad, who I saw as being Superman, basically. You know, growing up, big guy, tough guy, brave guy, someone who wasn't afraid of any man or beast, you know, on this earth, to actually be rattled and scared by something. I don't need any more proof than that.
Gotta be tracks here somewhere in this road. Oh, here's one.
For somebody to devote their whole life to a field like Bigfoot searching and squatching, to finally get something on camera is a huge deal.
Yeah, they've been all over this in here.
An elusive presence known only as Bigfoot. Witnessing it, even briefly, changes everything, leaving a mark that can never be forgotten. After decades of footprints, fleeting glimpses, and undeniable encounters, the forest keeps its secrets. The question isn't whether Bigfoot exists, it's whether anyone can face what's out there and return unchanged. Will Michael Freeman uncover the truth? The YouTube channel Salish Sasquatch is known for investigating mysterious sightings and unexplained activity in the Pacific Northwest. In this episode, Sarah Brown, a longtime local with first-hand experience of Capitol Forest's strange occurrences, takes viewers to Porter Creek, just a few miles from the famous 911 dispatcher sighting. On a quiet evening, she introduces the area as familiar, yet full of hidden history, perfectly suited for an investigation, unaware of just how strange and unsettling the night would become.
We're at Porter Creek right now in Capitol Forest. As the crow flies, we're only a few miles away from the 911 dispatcher sighting, which can be found online. The reason that we wanted to highlight this sighting is because it's in very close proximity to our home.
The road stretched quietly through the woods, and for a moment, everything seemed ordinary. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw it. A dark shape, massive and motionless, just off the pavement. The seconds slowed unnaturally as she tried to process what she was seeing, each heartbeat echoing like a drum. She couldn't explain it, yet instinct screamed that this was no ordinary shadow. 3 seconds later, it was gone, leaving behind only the lingering chill of something that had existed just beyond the edge of perception, and a question that would not leave her mind. What had she really seen?
In November of 2020, the 911 dispatcher was driving home around 3:30 p.m. She was between the towns of Malone and Porter, Washington. Off to her left, about 15 feet up, she noticed a dark creature. Though she was going about 55 miles an hour and she says the encounter only lasted about 3 seconds, she felt like it was in slow motion.
She described it as thin, almost unnaturally lean, with pale skin marked by bald spots. Every movement felt deliberate, too precise, too aware. But it was the face that stopped her. A face so eerily, yet wrong in ways she couldn't put into words, as if she was staring at something that didn't belong in this world.
She details the creature as about 6 feet tall, not very broad, but thin and very lean. It had patchy bald spots on its body, lighter skin, and she reported the face to look very, very human.
Viewers are taken to the very spot where the encounter occurred. On a narrow ledge, the creature had stood, almost as if it had been waiting. When she looked directly at it, a chilling awareness washed over her. It felt as though it had noticed her. Slowly, it turned and melted into the shadows of the surrounding forest. Whatever it was, didn't belong. Frozen for a moment, she felt the weight of being watched, completely exposed in the quiet wilderness. The figure didn't approach, yet its presence lingered, keeping her on edge, a silent reminder that she was not alone. Just across the road, the Chehalis River flows, alive with coho salmon this time of year. A peaceful scene that only makes the memory of the encounter feel all the more unsettling.
So up on this ledge right here is where the creature was standing. When she looked at the creature, she felt like it noticed her and she saw it make a 180-degree turn and walk into the woods. It's important to note that right across the street is the Chehalis River, which is full of coho salmon that time of year.
She moved through an area heavy with history, where the forest seemed to hold its breath. Rumors of a legendary print from decades past lingered here, unseen but ever present in the shadows. What made this place even more unnerving was its connection to a recent encounter reported by a local dispatcher, both tied to the vast, untamed stretches of Capitol Forest, a wilderness that feels alive, watching, and full of secrets no one has yet unraveled.
Without knowing the specific location of the famous 1982 Grays Harbor print, we are in the approximate area, and what connects this location to the 911 dispatcher location is the Capitol Forest.
No one has been able to explain what she saw that evening. The spot where the creature vanished was empty, untouched, yet the memory lingered like a weight on the mind. Trails, footprints, and signs of the forest offered no answers, and the mystery of that encounter, what truly crossed her path, remains unresolved. The team at ABC is no stranger to chasing the unexplained. Through their investigations, they venture deep into the Florida swamplands, seeking the creatures that have haunted local legend for decades. With a dedication to uncovering the truth behind mysterious sightings, they immerse viewers in tense, real-world encounters. But tonight, as Gloria Riviera steps into the marshes for a face-to-face investigation, she's reminded that even the most prepared journalist can be surprised by the unpredictable wild. For 3 years, 63-year-old Mark Barton and 51-year-old Chris Connor, seasoned Bigfoot trackers, have hunted one of Florida's most elusive legends, the skunk ape, a 7-foot-tall, half-man, half-ape creature notorious for its foul odor.
It looked apish. It had round cheeks, thin lips, the broad nose, deep eye sockets, and what you can make out to be a thick brow.
Witnesses describe broad noses, deep-set eyes, rounded cheeks, and thick brows, glimpsed fleetingly before disappearing into the vast, tangled expanse of the green swamp, where waterlogged terrain and dense vegetation hide countless secrets. Chris first saw it as a child, striding in massive steps back into the dense marsh, blending seamlessly with the wilderness.
It was taking like 3 of these larger steps getting back into the swamp and just blended into the swamp, and that was it. I'm beginning to be more and more convinced that this area has what we're looking for. The only problem is do you got the guts to go looking for it?
Why here? Why this swamp that happens to be in your backyard?
You got thick vegetation, you have running water, you have wildlife for food. Why couldn't they be here?
Now the duo navigate thick palmettos each weekend, convinced the creature still lurks here, daring anyone to follow in their footsteps. Around the time Finding Bigfoot was gaining popularity, the idea of an expedition ignited something in them. They realized they couldn't stay on the sidelines. They had to experience it for themselves. That spark led to countless adventures into the unknown, all of which they now capture on their YouTube channel, sharing every tense moment of the hunt with an audience eager for the unexplained. They call this footage their jackpot, the day they almost came face to face with the elusive skunk ape.
You know what? I've always wanted to go do an expedition.
And I said, why not? I have to do something. If I sit here, I'm not gonna make it.
There's the eye opening up.
I do see some
right there.
movement.
Looks like some blinking possibly going on. There's the other eye.
It does look like something big and dark and
see it right
hairy.
there?
It's not a hog.
No, it's not a hog.
When people say you're crazy, your answer is
We're gonna do our part to be able to show what's really out.
This is the moment they've been chasing for years, their closest encounter yet with the legendary creature. In the dim swamp light, a hulking, shadowy figure stirs, its presence fleeting but undeniable. Doubters may dismiss it, but they remain relentless, documenting each mysterious movement, determined to reveal what has long eluded the world.
Right. This is probably the moment where you're thinking, this is crazy. Right. It is thick jungle in there, so I'm gonna treat this as seriously as you do.
Now remember, this is what we're looking for.
This is where we're going?
Right in here.
About a half-mile in,
Look at this. This was fresh.
Mark and Chris start finding what they say is evidence.
Are you looking at a footprint, Chris?
Yeah, it's not enough. I'm just saying it looks like there's some characteristics there. With a large toe and another digit and another digit.
It's very small, though.
And so,
but see, a hog won't do that. A deer won't do that.
It looks like the toes are splayed just a little bit, but it's not good enough. But it's just of interest to pay attention to.
It is of interest.
For Mark Barton and Chris Connor, the hunt goes beyond legends. Deep in Florida's green swamp, every step is a test of trust and endurance. They know one misstep could be dangerous, and each counts on the other to pull them through. Their partnership is forged in the wild, strengthened by countless expeditions. And even at 63, Mark is determined to keep chasing the unknown as long as their bodies and the swamp allow. The possibility of something unknown, intelligent, massive, and unseen makes every expedition into the swamp far more dangerous than anyone could imagine. Mark and Chris relied on each other to make it out, but whatever moved in the shadows left behind lingering questions, fleeting glimpses, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched, a presence that will haunt their memories long after the swamp falls silent. Tonight, we're exploring a sighting that left even seasoned trackers questioning what's real. We've collected stories from locals who've seen something tall, silent, and unlike anything they've ever known. Sleepy Gulch sat right between 3 active Bigfoot zones, areas known for repeated and unexplained sightings. As they made their way deeper into the dense, shadowed woods, Jenny came across yet another fresh report from a local witness, one that sent a chill through the team.
Serviced it the last time that Sleepy Gulch runs between 3 Bigfoot sighting locations that are really close to it. And on the way in, Jenny read another report that happened on one side of Sleepy Gulch, plus the dozens of them that are right here. It is a muddy, slimy mess. There's a little bit of snow. Look at Jenny.
Yeah.
Jenny fell down in the mud. She's like, I hope that doesn't stain.
I know.
I think she's gonna be fine.
With every step, the sense that they were being watched, hunted even, grew stronger. The snow-covered trail was perfect for spotting tracks. As they moved deeper into the silent woods toward the trail camera, every crunch of their footsteps felt heavy with anticipation. Whatever the camera might reveal, ordinary wildlife, or something far stranger, was still a mystery waiting to unfold.
I see some moose tracks, and that.
Deer.
And some deer tracks. There's a moose track, and Jenny and I filmed a couple of moose on our way in here. I'll make sure I put those in this video.
That's a deer right now.
Yeah, another deer track.
I have to see about it.
Yeah, maybe we'll find Bigfoot tracks because we're finding Bigfoot food.
Fresh tracks appeared in the snow, moose, deer, but something about them felt different. Jenny had filmed a few moose on the way in, yet these new prints seemed to whisper through the silent forest. With each step deeper into the woods, an unsettling feeling grew, as if unseen eyes were watching, waiting, and not all the movement belonged to ordinary wildlife.
How creepy is that? He estimates it was about 9 feet tall, and it was only 20 feet away from him when it stood up. He says it was a male. He could see its man part, he says. He was close enough. He could see its skin, its dark skin under its dark hair fur. And he says it got up and it never looked directly at him. Acted like he wasn't there and kind of took a step towards him.
He shared the story of a friend Casey's terrifying encounter while camping. His friend had gone into the willows to cut some branches for hot dog roasters, when, just 20 feet away, a massive Bigfoot rose up from the shadows, silently watching. He said it must have been about 9 feet tall, a huge male, and that he could even see its dark skin beneath the thick fur. Every detail was clear to him, and the memory of being so close to something so enormous still sends shivers down his spine. The creature rose slowly, never once meeting his eyes, moving as if he didn't exist.
We've overshot it a couple of times. She's calling this creek bed a ditch.
That's where I came from.
Oh my heck. There was so much cover here when I set it up.
I know, now there's nothing.
Now there's no cover.
Mm-hmm.
You spotted that from a long ways away.
One step forward, then a quiet shift to the side, and it vanished into the shadows. The forest fell silent, but the chilling sense of being watched lingered, as if something enormous had just brushed past his world and disappeared without a trace. Not far from that same eerie stretch of woods, Jenny heard a story that sent chills down her spine. A woman she knows, who does her nails, told her how her boyfriend had a face-to-face encounter with a Bigfoot in the willows while camping. So close, so real, it felt like the creature was watching his every move, leaving him shaken and questioning everything he thought he knew about the forest. If it appeared just 20 feet away from someone else, what would happen if it appeared near you? On Small Town Monsters, a contributor named Kilar shares a chilling encounter from the early 90s that still lingers in her memory, even after decades of exploring ghosts, the occult, and unexplainable mysteries. One cold, fog-laden night after a late party, the kind of fog that rolls thick over waterways and swallows everything in sight, she was driving home when something happened that defied logic.
That it was an animal. And this thing stood in the midline of the road. If I would have been over another maybe foot, I would have hit him with my mirror. And it was interesting because so many people were like, well, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. Any other kind of animal would have darted away as soon as those headlights hit. But whatever it was stayed there. And it was interesting because all I saw was its legs. So how tall would it have had to have been for the rest of its body and head to be taller than a minivan?
No experience in all her years of investigating the unknown could prepare her for it, and to this day, she cannot fully explain what she saw or felt amid that shifting, ghostly haze.
I had an experience in the very early 90s that absolutely blew my mind, and to this day, I can't explain what it is. Now, I've been involved in ghost hunting and you know, investigating mysterious occult mysteries and so forth for almost 30 years, and this is the one thing that I could not explain. I was coming home from a party. It was late one night. It was in either late January, early February, because it was that time of year that we always get that heavy fog.
While driving along a fog-heavy road that night, she glimpsed something that didn't belong to the world she knew. It was clearly an animal, but nothing familiar. It froze in the center of the lane, unshaken by her headlights, as if daring her to get closer. Most creatures would have fled instantly, yet this one stayed, motionless. She only saw its legs, but even that hinted at a towering frame, far taller than a telephone pole, leaving her shaken and questioning what kind of being could remain so unbothered, so impossibly large, in the dead of night.
Like literally like lamb's wool, you know, or I can liken it to, you know, when you have a poodle and you don't get him groomed fast enough and you got that curly hair and it's all matted up, and that's what it looked like, and it didn't look like any other animal. And the fact that the legs were completely covered in hair, from what I could see, that didn't match to any other animal. And I said, you know, and that's a lot of what a lot of people have said over the years, you know, maybe it was a bear. And I said, well, I don't think we have polar bears in Louisiana. So unless we had a polar bear living in the Honey Island swamp.
As she drove past, her eyes locked on the massive legs, shrouded in thick matted fur streaked with dirt like an unkempt animal left to the elements. The sight alone made her pause, but then it hit her, the sharp, unmistakable stench, a raw, musky odor reminiscent of wet, unwashed fur. It was the kind of smell that turned her stomach and sent a shiver down her spine, a haunting signature she had heard of but never imagined experiencing firsthand.
I have seen when I've gone into the outback, come back out at night, it's dark, there was something out in between those two trees. It would go to that tree and that tree, and I've seen it on the third tree too, and it'll peek around the tree and it has super red eyes, glowing red eyes. I didn't have a flashlight, I didn't have anything. It was just, I could see the eyes. This thing was just like that, and it would, the first time I saw it, it was standing right between the two trees just staring at me. Gosh, it gave me the creep.
Over the years, countless theories had surfaced, but she dismissed them all with a quiet certainty. A bear? Impossible. The swamps of Louisiana weren't home to polar bears, and the thought of one silently roaming the island backwoods was absurd. Still, the memory of that night, the fog rolling heavy, The massive matted legs, the strange pungent scent, refused to let her go.
Same time, I was on the patio with James Richardson, and we were looking out this direction because we had heard noises out here. We had heard whistling and a weird growling noise, and we saw something walk from behind my horse trailer, and you could see the top part of it. So it was a black shape of some kind, and it walked from the horse trailer behind the barn. So it had to step over the gate.
Whatever she had encountered was unlike anything she had ever known. A presence that seemed to belong to a world just beyond understanding. A woman with a fearless curiosity for the unknown, she had spent years exploring the paranormal and strange phenomena.
And what it was is there was something standing close to the propane tank right there. I don't know depth-wise where it was, but it was there in that opening right there, and it moved to that tree, okay? And I turned and froze because I didn't know what it was.
But one night, out back, even she froze. Between two trees, glowing red eyes tracked her every move, and a fleeting shadow reminded her that the world she thought she knew was far stranger and far more dangerous than she could have imagined.
I mean, I was just like, and I couldn't see an outline or anything because it's pitch black. All I could see was the red eyes. You'd see one eye, and then it would go back, and then it would come on the other side, and then it would go back, and then it would go lower and pop out. And I thought, wow, I wonder what that is. My husband said it's an owl. I've never seen an owl with red eyes. They glow on their own. So.
When she first moved here, she believed only in what was real. Cougars, black bears, and elusive lynx. But strange events soon forced her to rethink everything. Out in the middle of nowhere, she relied on no one but herself. No one had to believe what she saw. She only needed to survive and witness the unexplainable that haunted these woods. On Wild Man of the Wilderness, every encounter begins as an ordinary moment until the darkness answers back. One quiet night in North Texas, while arriving at his grandparents' rural home, a young witness, David, stepped out of the car and into the unknown. Behind the house stretched acres of dense woods, silent and unlit. As he stood near the wall, something large shifted in the shadows.
Carport, but it was an older house, and it was really tight, so my grandfather would always make me get out of the car in the driveway. And I got out, and it was dark, and he had a retaining wall at one end of his driveway, and I saw something over there move around, and I thought it was just a big black dog. So I started walking over there towards it.
At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a big dog. But in the stillness of that night, the movement felt deliberate, watchful, and that was only the beginning. As he moved closer, he caught a glimpse of something strange and fleeting. At first, he thought it might be a giant bird with tattered feathers hanging from what looked like wings.
And as I got closer, I thought for a split second maybe it was some kind of giant bird, because it looked like it had wings with feathers hanging down. And it was down on all fours, crouched down, trying to stay in the shadows behind this retaining wall. And I got right up to the edge of it and looked down there, and
the creature stayed low on all fours, pressing itself into the shadows behind the retaining wall, as if trying to vanish from sight. When it finally turned its gaze toward him, his first thought was that it was snarling like the family dog. But in the next instant, a chilling realization struck him. It wasn't snarling at all. It was smiling.
And first I thought it was wrinkling its lips, because we had a dog and it was always growling and wrinkling its lips at me. But then I realized, and this is all happening very fast, that it was smiling at me. And with these, my dad played the piano, and the best way I can describe it is the teeth look like the yellow keys on the piano.
The face was unnervingly human, so real that his mind couldn't process it. Then the creature slowly raised a hand and beckoned him closer, a gesture so deliberate it froze him in place. Panic surged through him. He screamed and ran toward the house. His grandfather rushed outside, but when he returned, he insisted he hadn't seen a thing. That night became his first unforgettable encounter with something wild, intelligent, and terrifyingly real.
Just like this. And I had been kind of frozen looking at this thing, but when it did that, you know, I screamed and started running in, and my grandfather had already gone in the house, and I told him that there was a big hairy man over there. And he looked concerned, grabbed his 12 gauge, ran out there, and I heard a shot go off, and he came back in and said he didn't see anything.
He had tried to push it from his mind, to forget the encounter entirely, but some things refused to stay buried. That summer, he found himself at camp, joining one of the camp's legendary Brazos River trips. Their journey led them to a remote campsite near a place called Chick Bend, not far from the shadow of Kyle Mountain. Locals whispered that the area had its own strange history, strange sightings, and unexplained events that even the nearby scout camp couldn't ignore. Little did he know, the wilderness there had a way of keeping its secrets close. Until now. The companion he shared the tent and the canoe with spoke up, his voice tight with disbelief. He had seen it again, higher up the trail. A tree loomed nearby, and without hesitation, they climbed it, scrambling to the top for a better view.
You know, one guy said it was a wolf, some guy said it was a bear, another guy said, no, it looks like a big monkey, and that was it. And then the next morning, we were all packing up, and this was probably 9 o'clock in the morning.
From above, they heard it. Something moving fast, pounding through the underbrush, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. They tore down the trail in pursuit, hearts racing. He was in the lead, rounding a jagged rock outcrop, then slammed into something solid. He felt it before he even saw it. Something alive, immense, brushing against him in the darkness, trying to escape its grip only to catch the glint of its eyes and hear a guttural roar that shook the air. Just then, his friend appeared, wide-eyed, and froze at the sight. Fear took over completely, and in a split second...
So I kind of did a crab walk backwards because I was on my back and got up and I screamed. And then this thing roared. And just about that time, this friend of mine, he came running up. He saw it too. And we were so terrified that we jumped off of that cliff.
They both plunged off the edge of the cliff, tumbling into the unknown, the creature's presence still echoing in the night. That night would mark the moment the wilderness revealed a predator unlike anything they had ever imagined. It didn't take long for him to notice. A new kind of visitor was slipping into town, bold and unafraid. Pets disappeared, trash bins were overturned, and he began calling them the urban feet. The same pattern was emerging. Deer, raccoons, even predators were wandering into human spaces.
So that kind of started my journey on this thing. You know, I started going down to the library and reading about this, and then I had seen, I can't remember the magazine, but I was down at the library. They had a magazine that had the 67 Patterson Gimlin, you know, and they were talking about it then and talking about the footprint. So I was like, okay.
Not long ago, a mountain lion killed a deer in the vacant, proving the line between wilderness and town was vanishing fast. If creatures like this are slipping from the shadows into towns, watching, hunting, and disappearing without a trace, how much of the wilderness we think we know is really still wild, and how close are these? 12 sightings, 12 different locations, 12 different people who had no reason to lie and no way to coordinate a story. Scientists have no answer. Analysts have no explanation. And the forests haven't stopped producing new footage. Whatever is out there has been there long before any of these cameras were rolling. If this video made you look twice at the tree line, you already know what that feeling means. Subscribe, because the next sighting is already waiting.